Welcome back. My name is Ivica Cartello. You are watching Redux School for the Totally Beginners. Trying to explain Redux to totally beginners. Redux is a pattern architecture of software. Redux is JavaScript library. Here is a pattern of Redux. When something happens on our web pages, in React it means when something happens on component, because web page in React is a community of one or more component. Okay, here it is. We have, for example, counter. We click on the button and dispatch method of store take that action and give it to reducer in store. Reducer is a function with two arguments, state and action. It means there is a two input, state and action, and that two input result in one output. Because of that is name of reduce. Two input reduce to one output. One output is a new state, immutable old state, and produce new state. It must be immutable kind of process. Reducer, there is a first rule, first role for a reducer is produce immutable state. New state must be product of immutable old state. It means that reducer create copy of state and look at action. With action produce new state by help of that by aim of that old state. Copy of old state mutate in by aim of action, mutate in a new state. And that new state hook use selector is a method of store have possibility to communicate with store and component. Use a selector, take that new state and give it to component, and we see on the screen new state, for example number 13. It is pattern of Redux. Now let's go to script. Here is one React application. We see on the screen one web pages, but that web pages is a React product, and there is three component. One component is there is a feature of counter. Look at, or add amount. Counter. Second feature, and the counter is a separate component. Second component and second features is post. For example, author and content. And we look at here that, and third component, third feature is posts, and we look at of that post. Now look at script. Before I want to look at again on the users. This is users. And we have 3 features here: counter, posts and users. Features, counter, post and users. Counter, post and users. Every features there is a separate reducer, but altogether 3 reducer will go in combine reducer. First, store. How we create store? Here is a script. Import configure store from our Redux toolkit. Import counter reducer, post reducer and user reducer. You look at that 3 reducers of 3 our features. Import from counter slice, post slice, user slice. That is script what define, what create a foundation for action, for reducer and for state. Name slice coming from these constructions. It is one slice, reducer is one slice of reducer, second slice, third slice of reducer, and it is one combined reducer. There is 3 slice of reducer. Every feature one slice, and slice is all about reducer. We created store, but when we look at this pattern of Redux, creation of store is also creation of reducer, action and state. All about state, all about action, all about a new state. Reducer, it is store. Store, there is 2 methods. One method is dispatch and the second method is select. That method coming from hooks, use dispatch and use selector. We create store. We created store. In app.js, our top component, we have component counter, add post form, post list. Here it is, counter, add all about posts, add a new post, and post list. Counter, form for new post, and posts, published posts. 3 components. Store is only JavaScript, but app component is JS JavaScript extension or XML, JSX language. Where is the connection between store and our component, topic component? Here it is, index.js. Import React, create root, provider, store, and app. Look at here, import store, what we create. just created, and import app, of course. And around app, our topic component, we have a element, we have a React element provider with the properties store. Inside provider is our topic component app. Provider with the properties store equal just created store is connection between our topic component, and Redux. And because of that, this moment here, we can there is possibility to communicate dispatch and use communicate hooks, use dispatch and use selector. Communicate between Redux and React. Redux software and React components. Let's go to deeper inside of our software. Counter, post, and users, features. Every feature there is a component and software and Redux. There is a component, there is a React and Redux. Here is a counter. Counter.js is component. This is component, and that component, on click on button, there is dispatch decrement action, or click on button, there is a dispatch increment, and on click on button there is a set increment amount. 3 button. Here it is. 1, 2, 3 buttons. Decrement, increment, and add amount. Counter.js is component, and counter slice.js is Redux. It is create slice from toolkit import. We must at first declare and initiate initial state. It is value O. And after that we create export constant counter slice, create slice, and inside we always have a name of that slice or that reducer. It will be name of reducer. But I must say before all that what we see here is a foundation for to create a reducer and create action. It is foundation for it is action creator for create action. Also, it is foundation for produce reducer. Because of that, on the bottom always we have a counter. It is connection names counter slice, counter slice. We call that counter slice. Dot reducer. Counter slice, there is a sub-object reducer. There is a function reducer. Export default counter slice reducer. And behind every bottom line for every slice is this counter slice dot reducer. Look at posts. Post slice down. Post slice dot reducer. And users slice, user slice dot reducer. In every component, here is a counter.js, we have a import React use state, import React use selector use dispatch, and import increment, increment by amount, select amount. It is from slice, counter slice, it is action. Increment, increment by amount, and select count. Export function counter, we have declaration and instantiation variable what we need in our production of reducer and action. We need, of course, use selector, because that use selector connect us with its component with Redux and take new state and give it component. After what we can see that on the web page, on that component on the screen. Use selector is one way from Redux, new state, take state, and to component, one way. Dispatch is one way also, but contrary, from component to Redux. Dispatch take action. It is a listener of action. And the take action, it is our click on some of the button or rather, its action dispatch will dispatch action to store to reducer. It is one way from component to store. Every slice there is a initial state. Here is a counter. There is a initial state 0. It is and counter slice and post list, pardon, but post slice. Post slice there is a initial state. Two posts. First post, second post, content. It is initial state, and users slice initial state. There is 3 users: Tiana Jenkins, Kevin Grant, Madison Price. Okay. Here it is initial state. Initial state is 0. Here is 0. Initial post is first post, second post, and initial author is here. Ready for our use of component of this web page. After initial state, we have a user's slice. We create object user slice and equal create slice. It is by import we have from toolkit, and create slice in the object we create a name. We create object with name. Name is users. It will be name of reducer. Initial state and reducer equal empty object, because we don't add users here. Only read initial, and we don't script, we don't need here for this education example, we don't need adding of that user. Because of that it is empty. Again, name of reducer will be users, initial state and reducers will be empty. And we have here export before user slice reducer. It is users here is a post slice. Before that I can see simplest counter slice. Counter slice, there is initial value, and after that create slice, counter slice, create slice, name is counter, initial state we have up, initial state will be 0, and we declare, we name the members of reducers. It is increment, decrement, increment by amount. We name the action. Reducer have a state, two parameter. Function reducer, there is a two parameter, state and action. Because of that we create here initial state, and here we create action. This and the name of reducer is counter. Initial state will be parameter, one of parameter and state, and reducers here is action. Action increment is state value plus equal 1. We mutate state value, but we don't need it. But we can that in this new method of scripting by aim of toolkit. And here, this reducer from toolkit, there is a library, use library IMER, and that library will create old state and new state. Will take it separately. Will copy old state, and with copy of old state create a new state. But don't touch old state. Old state is immutable. New state is product from copy of old state and action. And we here can write that simple ways like here, because of help of the toolkit and that new method of scripting Redux. Increment. Decrement is also -1, state value -1. Increment by amount, look at here is only state. But we need the state and action. Why? Here there is no action, but here we have action. Because here we know amount of value. Amount of value is 1, always 1. Also, and because of that we don't need action. Here is always same amount. It is 1 also, but -1. But here, increment by amount, we type amount, what we want, and it is not at once known. It depends what we type. And because of that, we have a state and action. Here is a reducer with the two parameter, and state value plus action payload. We first time see payload because that action, that state and action give us also a payload. Payload is amount what will be here, because here it is, will be plus, will be add old state, but copy of old state. Here it is directly to old state. We mutate old state, but thanks to IMER library, we can write this, because IMER library in this reducer will change, mutate state by immutable kind. We'll make copy and of state, and that copy add payload. Here it is export of reducer. Export of actions. This is one reducer, counter reducer. It is counter reducer, and there is 4 action: increment, decrement, 3 action: increment, decrement, and increment by amount. Counter slice actions. Export select count is state counter value, and we create that variable because we need it in our component in one way, from state, from store to component. Select component, it is a value what we transport, what we communicate to component. It is new state. What hooks use selector help us to create it and have new state in our component. Export counter slice. It is counter slice, and now last one, post slice, post list, no, post slice. Post slice, there is import create slice. Import noid we need for create a random value for ID field in a list of posts. It is generator 9. Noid is a generator of random string for every new post identification, ID for every new post. Constant post slice, create slice, again, name post. Initial state, reducer. Reducers, post slice must add what will be payload. Payload would be title, content, and user ID. Payload of post is title, is users, and is content. Now, when I click Save Post, dispatch method of store take action, and action means type. It is object with which that define all what to do, what happen, and payload, what amount go with it. For example, this is what happened that I write, just type title, use author, and type content. It happened, and that content of title input, that author and that content must be transport to reducer as payload, but must be type also, type of action that said what with that add minus potential, etc. And because of that action, there is a type of action and payload. And look at dispatch. Take it to that action, type action and payload and content of the action. Take it to store to reducer, because dispatch is a method of store. Here we are. Reducer, there is a state, there is a two-argument state and action, and there is a description of that action with definition with the whole payload. Definition is state to push dot method push action and payload. Payload is content, action say what we did, minus, plus, etc. But push action is type of action, will be, pardon. Here is a push payload, concretely, push payload, but here is a type of action. Here is a state. What state? All state. All state. And here is a type of action, plus, minus, etc. And concretely is description of that state, push action payload. It means add, payload add to all state. It is concretely here, all state will receive payload, but it is mutable. But we can write mutable. It is shorter than that we write a copy of state, and it is a spread operator. By spread operator, copy of state, and on that copy write payload. No, this slice creator, create slice, all will do for us. What will do? Will create action type and action description. Action type and action description. F12, it is a Redux F12, it is a Redux toolkit for Chrome. If you don't have it, you install it. Here is Redux. And now we see initial state. Initial state is counter state, post state, and users. We have 3 users. But when I add a new post, look at now, save post, I have a here new post. You see that string, that random string, what is ID for a new post. Title is AAA, no, content is BBB. Yeah, I can see this like this. It is ID, title, content, user, users one. It is name of members and value. It is payload. It is description concretely value what action take, but here is a type of action. Type of action take it is counter slice create it. We don't write this like that and create it for us, create all this. This is action, payload, and this is type of actions. Slice creator take name post name of reducer and slash post added concretely action, name of action. Posts is name of reducer and post edit is action. Together it is type, we call it type of action. I can something else, for example, increment. Look at counter increment. Again, counter increment. Add amount, counter increment amount. Counter increment by amount. And we have complete history of our action. Because this is action. Action is concretely here, concretely value, type of action. All that create for us slice. This slice, all that create for us. Because of that, this is creator of action. It is a creator concretely here. Creator of action. Prepare and prepare is a function that have argument here is title, content, user ID, and the return payload. Payload is a random number, a random string, title, content, and user ID. Look at here. It is ID, title, content, ID, random string, title, content, user ID, it is 1. And method. Method is here, counter. Counter was, look at, you can control all history of our state, and it is something what we have with Redux and immutable kind of changes, and we export that post add. Yeah, here it is, post add, and export that action and post and export reducer. Look at this post ended. It go with the name posts together. Posts slash add post added together. It is type of action. Type of action. Action have type, and action have action is object with type and payload. Type means what to do, and payload means content of that. Short summary. Post slice, counter slice, counter slice, post slice, users slice. is very simple routine what we can take with practice and create and script. It is very, very simplest, the simplest possible until now way to create Redux. All about Redux is on this one slice. For every reducer, one slice. And reducer, there is a two argument, action and payload, and we create at first a constant initial state. We declare and instantiate, and after that we script payload and name of reducers and payload of action and name of action. But name of action will be produced by slice because name type of action is a combination of users and it is name and action, but here it is we have not a payload, pardon, it is tape. Name of tape is users, this name, slash name of action, but here we have no payload and we have no name of what to do with that payload. It is user, post slice, there is a import create slice, initial value, and create slice for reducer. Reducer is slice because every reducer go in combine reducer, and separate user is a slice of combine reducer. And here we write name, it will be name of reducer, but also posts will be part of the name of type action. Type of action will be part. It will be it is go post slash name of what to do with payload. And here it is reducer, state action. Reducer always have two arguments, but except in counter, when we know payload amount, always one. But when we don't know it, we must write action and write script what to do with that payload. Here is a push method. And prepare action payload. Concretely, here we have a variable name, but in real it must be value, and that value produced here it is variable name, and it is we because of that we call that creator. It is action creator, because concretely action is concretely value. Here is creator. For every action, one foundation for creator, one creator action, and we write only this. But that same action creator, it is it, will produce action, will produce concretely payload for every our action. It is different that of kind when we write by hand every action. What was before. That Redux tool is something very, very excellent what happened. It is post slice, and we have counter slice again. Name of counter in initial state, reducers, slice, increment, reducer slice, decrement, increment by amount, and export state. Export state we need. Let's go that where we need. We need in counter select here it is. We declare variable by add of a hook. Use selector, what we import here, and the parameter of function use selector is select count, is that value. And we are in component. Here is a value of component count, and it will be a new value depend about what we click. Here we have state. We know value of state, and now we create, we declare variable dispatch and assign it by use dispatch. Use dispatch is hook that by that is possible to use dispatch method of store, and dispatch action from component dispatch to reactor in store. It is dispatch, and constant we create now. Okay, how change by immutable kind change a value in input. Here it is. When I write 10, that is state on the component. State of 10 is a state of input. This input, and when I click add, what happened? It is not our topic state in Redux. It is only state in our component, local state, and we add that value, add our topic state, our count, state of count, and how take in memory where it is, where is memory for that? Who memorize that value of 10 until we add that? Look at, until we add that. It memorize a use state hook, and we use a use state for immutable change on by immutable kind local state, and here it is user state. We create array, and the user state produce array with the two members. One is increment amount, concretely amount, and set increment amount. That set increment amount is a function that set value what we write by our hand. Set increment amount. Here it is default value. Default value is 2. Because of that, we have a default value is is 2. And here it is. User stated. We have a array with 2 members. We have increment amount, concretely amount, and we have a set increment amount who set that. Must be somebody who set that amount. It is a value of increment amount, but it is function set increment amount. After we type, set that value what we type, set, and it became increment amount. But we must create constant increment value equal number. Number function, there is argument, parameter increment amount, and after that we are sure that it is number. Increment value is number because we have arithmetic operation plus and minus, and it must be number. Because really that value what we write in input, it is by default string, and because of that we must use number, convert that string in number, and increment value is number. And look at here, button decrement on click, on properties click, that HTML element, there is properties on click. It is on click is JavaScript event, and the dispatch decrement. A dispatch function, dispatch method of store, take decrement and take it action decrement to store, to Redux. If we click and here is count value, what we see, it is that 0, now 2, this is it. And behind of that is on click dispatch increment, dispatch take action increment from this button, and increment by increment amount value get after yes, but here we have on change properties also. That input, there is on change, there is a value increment amount, but on change set increment amount. Here is a function set increment amount from cook use state, and that function set value from event dot target dot value. It is value what we type. Value what we type set as increment amount. Set as increment amount. After every type we have increment amount with characters what we type. When I type here it is a set state. It is a role for set state. Set state is use state, is a product of hook of use of state, and that set state memorize a new state by separate from old state. Don't merge new payload or with old state. It is separate, memorize separate a new stage. it is immutable kind of changes. Immutable. Use state is hooks for a change, immutable kind of change, state, local state. Local state. Here it is, we look at a local state. And we see, and because of that, here we need a value increment amount, and we need properties on change. And when we click on button, we have on click action and dispatch increment by amount. Increment by amount. Increment by amount is a function. Increment by amount here it is state, but also that state here, increment by amount, that state here is function with parameter increment value. Again, I now wrong say dispatch here there is a parameter increment by amount, but it is action. It is action. It is not this increment. It is not increment amount. It is increment by amount. Increment by amount. It is always dispatch. Dispatch. There is action in parameter, but it increment by amount. It is action because look at post slice. No, pardon, we are in counter slice. Counter slice. There is action increment by amount, and that it is a reducer. It is a reducer. It is slice inside slice. When we have here in store, every reducer is a slice of combined reducer. This is combined reducer, and it is slice of reducer, slice. But here in post slice and every slice, concretely post slice, these reducers, it is plural. There is a slice inside. There is a slice reducer. There is a slice reducer, and that here it is. A reducer always have state and action, two arguments, but action is object. Reducer is function, always function, and action is object. And reducer, there is two input, reducer, state and action. It is a reducer. Here is a definition, prepared definition of action creator. And we have reducers. Name of that reducers is post-edit, but it is a name, pardon. Post reducers, there is here is reducers plural is in curly brackets. It means that inside is object. In that object we have post-edit. It is object object, and that object is reducer, state, action. and that in body of that function is state push action payload, comma, and after that we have prepare. What is prepare is action creator. Action creator who declare all what I need, and that creator of action produce every action what we have in our operation with the website. Because of that is creator or action creator, and action creator prepare action creator will produce action and but action is object what have payload and type of action. Type of action is produced from posts, this name, and reducer, this name of this method, post_slice.reducer, and here it is post_slice. There is a sub-object reducer, and reducer action, name of action, will be produced from that name, what we write here, and that, but payload will be prepared by this function, and in function body we have return every of that member. We have return object payload. That means that reducers, we must look at curly brackets and see what is it. But altogether, from slice, we have initial value, we have a name of reducer, we have name of reducer, and we have action creator, and from action creator we have every separate action. Post added, and here it is export of that action and the export of reducer. A counter reducer, this is counter and down is reducers. It is create of name counter reducers in store. Look at counter reducers, posts reducer, users reducer, and this one combined reducer is object of separate of reducer, and like slice. But here also in counter slice we have a slice of action, one action, second action, third action, and we have export of that action, and also here we have variable select count, it is state. Go back to a counter, and it is all about counter component. Counter component declare variable what we need. It is count, state, increment amount with counter component use a state hook for local variable of input increment amount of that input increment amount. We need local use state, local state for immutable kind of change, local state. We use state hook, and use state hook. There is a component set state, and local memorization. And don't need that state state push in Redux. And it is example where hook in local component help and work with hooks in Redux component, concretely with the dispatch method, with use dispatch. And also how variable from store with use selector coming to component. It is counter. Users slice we look at, but now users we need users for post authors. Return this. It is in curly brackets is JavaScript author. If exists author, if we have author, write author name. Instead, unknown author. And well, we know that here it is knowing about author. We declare variable post author, but also here we create component, export constant post author component, and in curly bracket we use user ID. It is what we click, and in body we create variable author, use selector, and find from state. Find by parameter state. State is all state, all users. It is initial state of users. We have 3 users, and in body we control state users, method state users. Users is array of author. It is array of 3 members, 3 author, and that array. Every array there is a method find, and the method find in parameter there is arrow function. Arrow function parameter we write user, and in body of arrow function we have user.id equal user ID what we click. User ID what we click. How coming here. User ID coming here from add post form. Look at add post form. Post author component is part of the add post. Add post. Here it is. Here it is. It is part of it is JS XML language, where we have a combination of HTML and JavaScript. Concretely, here we have a element, HTML element. It is fallen down menu. Select is HTML element, fallen down, menu. Select what have value, user ID, and there is a parameter on change. On change in equal on curly brackets is on author changed, and it is who create on author changed. It create set again. We have use state hook and use state. This use state produce array with two member user ID and set user ID. Look at now. User ID is a value of user ID, and it is ID of user. User ID and set user ID. And set user ID is a function what change value of user by immutable way. It is set state. Set user ID, and we go here. It is on author change. It is set user ID event target. Properties of event is target, and properties of target is value equal on author change. In moment of change, that value, that ID go to author change. How we know that ID will go here? And for example, we don't need conversion to number because it must not be number, and that if it is number, we don't use it in arithmetic operation. But here we decide what go in select, what will be value, and we decided that value will be user ID, but that user ID coming from this user's options. Let's go to see user options. User options is key is known thing. We use ID of our author, and the value equal user ID. Here it is where we define what will be value, because users, there is ID, there is a name of author, ID of author. We can look at here. Redux users. Users have a ID, name. It's all ID, name, and and we use in options. Let's go back. Users options is users.map. In arrow function we have parameter user equal option. Option is fall down menu, and we look at there is a tag, this one tag, and this second tag. And between that open and close tag, we have username, and username, it is what we see, but value is what we memorize when we click. Here it is. Here. It is a name. We look at name, but when we click, we will memorize user ID. Where we declare users here in slice, we declare users initial state, and we have here ID of what? Of it is every user there is a ID, and users, this is array. You see, angle brackets is always array. Curly brackets is the object. Initial state here is array of objects. Every member is object. And the name of that array is users. And members we call ID, name, and because of that here in add post form, we have this is user. It is one from users, plural. It is we use singular. We can write here x, y, what we want, but of course the best is user, singular. Dot ID, user dot ID. It is users is array, but user is single array. And when we click, we have here in users, we have here we will have after click, we will have ID, user ID, and dispatch method. Dispatch method add post form and dispatch on save post click. When we click on the save button, we will have dispatch function dispatch, and parameter is action post added, and the parameter of post added is title, content, user ID. It is user ID. Here coming user ID. From now advance, we have user ID what coming in reducer. It is only Boolean algebra that find from us that we choose every three options if we want save options of this. Look at it is unable when we write this, also unavailable. Only when we choose this, we have possibility click to save post. And look at type of here it is, type of action. It write for us action slice, create all that type of action, create action creator created it. Okay, here is add post form equal arrow function and in the body create declare three array from use state. Use state produce array with title, it is properties, it is value, and set title, it is function. Set body functions, concretely set title, set content, set user ID. And we need it when we use state hook. Here is import use state hook. We need for immutable kind of change state, local state. Local state. It is state in input title, input content, and state author. Change that three value, that three state of posts. And dispatch, we create object dispatch from hooks use dispatch. And in that row, dispatch have can go to store and connect store with it is method of store and connect store and component. It is function, and but it is a result of use dispatch function. And constant users is use selector we need for state users. Users, it is array of users, of all users, and they are part of state. And we have on title change, on content change, on author change. We call in arrow function with parameter event, we call set title, set content, set user ID, and parameter is target value, depend, does it input title, input content, or input author. And after that we have here in this on title change, we have a value, memorized value of what we type in input or what choose in author list. And set title, set content, set user ID, create memory for that value. Local, it is local changes of state. Local state, change of local state on immutable set state, change state, not merging but not merge, but create separate state, not merge with old state, immutable kind of changes. On save post click, when we click on final button of forms, save post, we have our arrow function of if title and content exist, but we don't need that because we say here that we must exist. But if exist, dispatch post edit. Post edit is only one action in posts, in reducer posts. And parameter is title, content, user ID. And here it is set, after that, after it go to store, set title to 0, empty, and set content empty. And we always have empty input and start position for our element after dispatch, after our click on save post. We say about it, it is user options is object, it is array of users, complete users, user's name we see, and value is user ID. And here it is return, that is JavaScript XML language. JSX language now in return. That is a combination of HTML and JavaScript together. And here it is all what we see on the screen. First of all, input for input element, HTML element for title, and the value is title, and on change, on title changed will be here. It is from set state. It is set state created it on title changed. Also here, post author select and create user ID coming from users options. User options, and we take as value user ID. It means that when we click on author, we click on author name because we look at name, we see only name, but behind it, behind scene, will be memorized user ID, and we call that user ID, like here. But when we select it, look at app.js, add counter, add post form, post list, and post list post author, there is a child. Post list is component, and there is a child component, post author, and there is properties, props, user ID equal post user. It is user ID here. We use user ID equal post dot user. Post and user coming from users slice. Post coming from post slice. Look at user and user users slice, post slice, here is a user ID, and post slice, post list. Post list is post user. Post user coming from here. Post rendered post. When we have a list of post, we render it post like post is array dot map method, and as argument we named post, and it is post. Equal in the body we have article key post ID and post title, post author. Here is a post author from it is post.user, post.id. We have it user slice, name users, initial reducer, ID. Here it is post slice user. Here it is user. No. Yes, it is a user. User and post list. It is from here return a user it will be value, concretely value of user, and the post list is post user, yes, post user. Here it is post, it is this post, and user is post slice is user. Here it is, user will be value is user ID, and here post list we have post dot user. Every post, this post from array post, plural. Every post there is a member user, and concretely post dot user will be our user ID, and this is element, React element, and there is a props, one properties, short props, user ID equal, in curly bracket post user, it is data, as this post ID, post title, post content. It is all from ID, title, content. Post ID, post title, post content, and user. It is from here. It is post list. I think I said everything. But for me, it's very interesting is Redux, and I will I will talk about Redux in my also in a lot of my next video. Maybe short, maybe all that I divided in separate smaller video, and correct something what maybe I said wrong in this long time, but not wrong, but not clear, not clear. And of course, post here is rendered post, and we look at post title, post author. We look at in post user, and in this props coming in post author. Here is a post author, and here it is user ID, and again here it is, and coming from post author, and post slice is this one is user. It is value for user ID, and post author have a user ID, received user ID, but we don't see here import of some component. It all go in background. Redux communicate by a user selector, and user ID is here in curly brackets. It is concretely value user ID, and by method find, here is find user ID equal that user ID what we clicked, and coming here in user ID. Here it is post author, and here it is return. It is what we see here. It is export. It is JavaScript, but return, and this row is JSX language, HTML together with the JavaScript, and in curly brackets here in JavaScript. Author, if exists user ID, write author name, and here it is name of author. We look at name and not ID, not user ID. Look at again here. Here it is. I choose that and write again. And now, say, we have here our initial value, there is no author, but after that we have author. Look at, it is title, it is name, what application know by user ID, and here is content. Again, title, author, content. Thank you for watching this video.